Hello, everybody. David here. Welcome. Here we share true stories from real people. Today, starting out with the first story. My sister wants me to pay for her daughter's wedding, so I work twice as hard. But then they both mock my work and I decide not to pay anything. My sister came to me begging, absolutely pleading for me to help pay for her daughter's wedding. Well, you know what? I'm the only one who's really in a position to help, and it won't hurt me to help, so why not? I'll give some money for it. But then I found out a secret about, well, my sister and her little daughter. My husband is deceased. I met my husband on a dating site when I was 20. I logged in, and there was this super cute face. I clicked and saw that he lived 1,700 miles away. Well, I clicked away immediately because, what's the point? A few days later I decided, what's the worst that can happen? And I sent a message. And he replied. Within a week, we were talking every day, and within a month, it was 3 times a day on Skype. He lived in Texas, I lived in California. I flew to see him a few months later, and he flew to see my family a few months after that. I flew once more and stayed forever. We got married a year after we met and continued living with his parents. We never had children because he was quite volatile and paranoid all the time when kids were around him. After our wedding, he wanted to dive into a hobby that was fun, interesting, and social, and that could earn us some extra money. He had always liked tastefully modified or customized cars, so he got a car and worked on his car modification skills at home in our small garage. Then he started working on more cars, providing more and more modifications for friends and local enthusiasts. He had friends with mechanical skills and a place to get his parts very cheap. After many years of hard work, he gained a reputation in town for his expertise and quality work. So he started joining these Facebook groups for car meets in our area. He would go to these events and meet a lot of car enthusiasts. At that time, he focused on building a small but loyal customer base and made around $50,000 in doing so. For big jobs, he would rent a 2-car garage out of town for about $350 in a month. The demand grew, and he focused on specializing in high-end and luxury sports car modifications. It was a lot of work for him, and I wanted to relieve some of his stress, So I cooked his favorite dishes, made sure the house was clean, tried to get him to go for walks, brought him food, snacks, and water, etc. We had 9 wonderful years together until he suddenly died of a heart attack, completely out of nowhere. I don't know, one minute he was telling me to sleep, and the next I heard a loud noise and sat up only to see him collapsed in front of the desk. The paramedics worked on him for almost an hour before they came to tell me he was gone. So after that, I fell into a dark hole, and well, I came out of it. Although it was a strange feeling how I had to end my life without him. I missed him so much. I did, and I had moments of rage and pain, but I moved on. I also threw myself into work. I reached out to my husband's network of professionals and clients, and started watching car channels on YouTube. Even, attended workshops and learned from many internet forums. My biggest fear in taking over was failing and ruining my husband's long-standing business. I always questioned whether I was making the right decision or ruining his legacy. And keeping his dream alive was probably the biggest challenge. Gradually, I took on more responsibilities. The business was already successful, so I didn't try to reinvent the wheel. I just kept making small changes over time to offer better services. Although it's not as successful as before, I still keep the shop profitable. And currently, I do all the work myself. Modifications, maintenance, whatever. Modifying cars is hard, but it taught me a lot, and I've made so many lifelong friends with other car enthusiasts over the years. It's very rewarding to take a sports car from start to finish, and add your own personal touches everywhere without ruining the car's character. Plus, it's also financially amazing. However, my sister Rachel always asked me, why do people like to change things on their vehicles? Or, a car is only used to go from point A to point B, why do people spend money on that? Why do they try to turn their car into something it's not? Why do you want to lift so much weight? Why are you doing this? It already looks good enough, don't ruin it. They're made to be as they are. I never understood why she cared so much about what people did with their property. Despite this, I've always tried to maintain a peaceful relationship with her. When we were kids, we weren't treated equally or held to the same standards by our parents. I was always expected to be a hardworking, responsible girl who made the right decisions. But Rachel was encouraged to have fun, and our parents rescued her every time she made an irresponsible decision. For example, when she simply did poorly in school or something like that, they would just pay tutors to do her homework. But if I really struggled in a subject, they told me to figure it out on my own. When she was 18, Rachel had an affair with my then boyfriend while we were still together. And my parents never really held her accountable for her actions. Soon she decided to marry him in private. In my family, we have the term ICU baby for unplanned family members. This should be a sign that my family sucks. I was an ICU baby, and so was my niece Olivia. Due to my parents' favoritism, I'm honestly closer to my husband's parents than to my own. When my husband passed away, they told me that I would always have a place with them. I call them mom and dad, and they will be so for the rest of my life. The immediate acceptance and love I received from them made me love them 1,000,000 times more than anything I felt for my own family. I'm very fortunate to care for them in their old age. Fast forward to now. Last fall, Olivia announced her engagement to her soulmate Chris. Overall, a great guy. Respectful, faithful, reliable, and humble. I couldn't be happier. I watched her grow into a young adult and spent a lot of time with her. I love her and see her as my own daughter. When she was a child, she didn't have much. So whenever I visited her, I tried to spoil her the best I could, especially as the business improved. I did everything I could to support her and even started a fund for her recently to help her pursue her chosen master's degree. In early spring, she announced the date and location of her dream wedding, and I was excited for her. I've been helping her plan things since there were only about 9 months until the wedding day. Due to unforeseen circumstances, Chris lost his job and apartment 7 months before the wedding day and couldn't find a way to get a new job without having to move. So, Rachel asked me to help pay for the wedding. Neither she nor her husband has a job, and although she is in a doctoral program, they are living off some of her research funds, which is not enough to live on. She has never worked a day in her life, and they currently reside in an apartment that his parents are paying for. Olivia has not yet graduated. My parents have several health problems and no savings, and they cannot help financially at all. So I agreed to step in and contribute along with Chris' parents to pay for the wedding. You know, nothing too expensive or extravagant, but we all agreed it was a nice gift for the newlyweds to start their life together. I was taking on more projects, even when it meant I was exhausted. I worked tirelessly to save for the dream wedding my niece wanted. The venue required a small deposit, a payment 6 months before the wedding date, and then a final payment 1 day before the wedding. The venue is owned by a friend of Rachel's, so he agreed. The first 2 payments were made by me and Chris' parents as scheduled. I paid for the main costs, specifically the venue, chairs, tables, linen rentals, catering, and an open bar. The catering bill was due at the time of the final count, rentals were due upon delivery, and the bar bill was due upon closing the bar. A few days before the wedding day, we were having dinner at my parents' house. Rachel, my brother-in-law, Olivia, Chris, my aunt, and my older cousin were there. My aunt was asking Rachel about the wedding, and Rachel said everything was going as planned and then casually laughed and told Olivia, "Let's hope the wedding doesn't end up looking like your aunt's car modifications." Well, I was completely stunned. She laughed, and Olivia laughed too, as if it were some sort of inside joke. I was in shock. Olivia was never like this. I don't know, it just happened so fast. I stood up and started yelling at Rachel, but my parents asked me to calm down, and Rachel said calm down, it was just a joke, and she didn't think I would react so intensely. My dad said I was being too harsh, in fact. I mean, it's just a joke, right? And that I know how she is with her dark sense of humor. My brother-in-law and my aunt remained seated, and my cousin asked me to calm down, drink some water, but I just grabbed my things and left. I heard a big commotion as I was leaving too, and Chris and my cousin followed me outside to try to talk to me, but you know what? I just wanted to be left completely alone. The next day I was in my garage and Rachel, Olivia, and Chris came and saw me working, my skin sweaty, oily and greasy. Well, Rachel and Olivia let out a giggle and called my work a waste of time. They called my clients clowns and said this job is terrible, dirty and hard. Chris tried to stop them and make them apologize for everything they said, but Rachel continued saying that I'm a woman and car modifications are men's work and that it's disgusting for women to want to work on cars. Chris defended me and said, obviously it's a woman's work because a woman is doing it. Look, she replied, a woman cannot perform as well as a man. She may rise to a mental job, sure, as easily as a man, but absolutely not when it comes to something physical. Chris asked her what the hell was wrong with her and scolded her, saying I was the one financing the wedding. Her response was, it's not like she's going to go back on her promise over an opinion. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of seeing me react to that, so I let it go. I spent the next few days pretending everything was fine. During the rehearsal dinner, which was yesterday, I overheard the conversation. Yeah, this place really sucks. Well, who orders a steak in a place like this? Actually, who chooses a place like this for a pre-wedding dinner? Well, you should blame your aunt. She insisted it had to be the perfect atmosphere for a pre-wedding gathering. Oh, the only thing scarier than this steak is the idea of blaming her for it. She gets offended by almost everything I say. She should learn to be a good little maid. You know what, that was too much for me. I took Olivia to a private place and told her I heard what she just said about me being her good little maid. I don't appreciate her joke, it wasn't funny. And I felt humiliated. She got angry and started yelling things like, I have a whole pre-wedding event waiting for me out there. Who do you think you are to bring me here and waste my time? It's a joke, don't be such an idiot. She accused me of ruining the event and started yelling at the top of her lungs. She went back to the event, and I just stood there. When I returned, everyone was staring at me, and Olivia was sobbing in her dad's arms. He proceeded to yell at me, telling me I ruined the event and caused a scene. Then Rachel said that the coordinator had just called her and said that the owner wanted the final payment if they wanted the venue doors to be unlocked. She assumed I had already paid and asked me why I hadn't done so yet. Well, I told her the offered money had been rescinded and I wouldn't give another cent. She went crazy and said I'd be an idiot for not keeping my promise. When I reminded her of the things she said, she dismissed them as jokes and accused me of being petty. My mom told me to be a better person and said I was being incredibly selfish and bitter. I told them I was tired of being treated like I couldn't do my job. It's exasperating, and mostly, they don't like me because they see I have many male friends and get along better with men than with women. They think I'm too ambitious. Chris apologized for Olivia and asked if I would consider giving them $5,000, and I said no. Rachel was crying and said this would ruin her daughter's wedding. She wanted me to reconsider my decision since it would damage my relationship with Olivia, but I refused. She kept crying and begging for the funds, but I told her no. Olivia turned very cold and said, "You always brag about having a good memory. I hope you remember this moment." I told her, "Don't bite the hand that feeds you. It's just stupid to mock me all the time and then suddenly expect me to happily throw money at you." My brother-in-law got visibly upset, but after receiving looks from the guests, he said I only had to pay for the venue. I told him I wouldn't give anything for his daughter's wedding. Then he joined the chorus of insults, called me everything, and also involved his parents in it. Rachel then made another comment about my career. Everyone laughed. I felt humiliated. She was also laughing, and then continued, and I felt like crying and screaming at the same time. It was a rage and sadness I had never experienced before. After her speech, I spoke. I just responded, "Sister, a quick reminder that you haven't achieved anything in your life without mom or dad holding your hand. As soon as you do, you can criticize my job all you want, right?" She, of course, got offended and started making a scene. My parents and some other relatives said my response was cruel and completely out of line, but my husband's family said she had it coming after insulting me first. Throughout the evening, they continued making these negative comments, mostly directed at my in-laws. I could see my mother-in-law was getting upset. I explained that I wouldn't tolerate them talking to my in-laws that way. Rachel then said I really know nothing about cars and just make them worse and disgrace my husband's honorable status. I got so angry that I told her she had never worked a day in her life and was an incompetent parasite. She responded that if I had only helped my husband with his work, he would still be alive. At this point, I just decided to leave with my in-laws. Apparently, Chris had a big fight with Rachel that night and broke up with Olivia because she sided with her mom. He canceled the wedding, and Olivia is absolutely devastated. I really feel sorry for her. So I contacted the venue and they were very kind and offered a refund, but it will take a few business days before the refund is processed. Today, I texted Olivia that I would no longer be responsible for funding her education. Rachel kept trying to call and then texting, saying I couldn't do this to her. Now our parents are involved and are pressuring me to help. My mom tried to get me to go talk to her, saying Olivia didn't deserve to be abandoned like this. Once again, I told her I couldn't afford it on my maid's salary. Remember? And she said that if Rachel called me a maid, she would laugh and admit that it was pretty accurate. After saying this, I yelled at her and told her there is a big difference between affectionate jokes and obvious malice. I don't mind good-hearted jokes, but they should know what lines not to cross and what constitutes sensitive topics. I really don't know what I'm asking, if I'm overreacting or if I should have just agreed to make the final payments. Well, my in-laws are okay with it since it's my money, but my friends don't support my actions and told me I should have stuck to what we agreed on. Part of me feels they're right, and I'm going against my word, but part of me finds it hard to see the humiliation as a simple joke. Anyway, guys, thanks for reading this far, hoping for any feedback you can provide. Update 1. Hi everyone. I didn't expect to come back here and receive so much support. I really didn't plan to update at all, just wanted to leave what happened behind and share it here, hoping for some advice. After writing everything, I closed my computer and fell into a kind of depressive spiral. After posting it, it hit me like a train, so I'll try to respond more in the post. Honestly, it was too much to try to do everything at that moment. Just know that I read most of the comments. I really appreciate all the opinions, both negative and positive. So, Olivia called me today and started protesting, saying I was affecting her education and I couldn't do that. This is my family, my niece and her future. And I told her she has absolutely no idea what it's like to work and have to pay for everything, or what it's like to work hard and have to support someone who treats you badly. I'm literally giving hours of my life to pay for someone who thinks so little of me. Then she got angry and said she didn't care at all. So I responded, well, these are the consequences of your actions. You can't treat me terribly and then want me to suddenly put on $1,000 smile for you. Now you have 2 free years from missing your dream program to think about how treating someone as less than human is not a good life strategy. Wow. I don't completely blame her for her actions. She is very, very, very lonely and a completely isolated child. It's not an easy household to grow up in, and Rachel can't be a good mother. Well, Olivia is talented, she is an artist, but she doesn't have an open space to express herself at all. She worships the ground her mom walks on and does exactly what her mom wants her to do. Rachel, to this day, hasn't truly apologized. It was a sorry, but not sorry. I can't stop thinking that my husband's death was my fault. My mother-in-law assured me and said it wasn't anyone's fault. My mother-in-law is so sweet and loving, unlike my mom. My father-in-law is much more relaxed and less critical than my own father. We differ a bit in politics and religion, but I am blessed to have them in my life anyway. I miss my husband so much. I miss staying up late talking and having date nights at home. I miss going out and ordering things for each other to try different things. I really miss him. It's been over 10 years, but I still cry occasionally. I have 1 or 2 days each year where it's all I can think about, and I feel this enormous longing and pain in my heart. It still feels like an open wound. Update 2. Thank you so much for responding and taking the time and for the advice. Rachel called me and said Olivia wanted to come visit me for a few weeks to rebuild our relationship, and I said it was fine with me if she wanted to visit. But then it turns out she wants to bring her boyfriend. He is 44 years old. I thought, are you kidding me? But she wasn't joking. At first I said, absolutely no, but after about a week of conversation, I relented with one condition. I told her that if this guy stays in our house, I will ask him questions he may not like. She wanted to know what kind of questions, so I gave her some very specific ones. How did you two meet? Who made the first move? If it was the guy who made the first move, it's weird. Has the guy been married? Does he have kids? Why are you dating such a young woman? What is the end goal here? A serious relationship? A marriage? Have you discussed what will happen if Olivia gets pregnant? I know I'm not Olivia's mom, right? And we're not on good terms, but no one else in her family is asking these tough questions. Rachel is perfectly fine with the relationship, which baffles me. So fast forward to the visit. Olivia and the older guy show up. I'm cordial. I wait until the evening, and after everything is settled and dinner is over, I invite the guy to join me on the porch for a few drinks. You know, just him and me. So I start asking my questions. After just my second question, the guy starts to get very, very defensive. He told me this wasn't any of my business. Well, I got a bit mad. I told him he was staying in my house for a week. I can ask him some questions, and the girl is my niece. I'm not out of line here. He told me I was making him uncomfortable. So I replied that I was uncomfortable having a man who was clearly taking advantage of a young girl in my house. You can answer my questions and act like a decent guy, or feel free to get the hell out. Well, he laughed. Olivia and her parents are mad at me, and they said I acted like a jerk, and that if Olivia is happy I should let it go. Again, they told me it wasn't any of my business. And since then, they have broken up, which I'm glad about. I'm not sure if my actions were the cause of it. I asked my questions in the written order, and only asked the first two before he got so uncomfortable. Anyway, I'll keep you updated. Update 3. Hi, so I talked to Olivia this morning and she and I are completely fine. She knew my actions came from wanting to keep her safe. I asked her why they broke up, and it turns out the guy was cheating on his wife. He confessed it to her and said he would divorce her for Olivia. He has 3 kids, all of whom are her age or older. Yep, she left him. Then she asked me why I was so against her and her parents, to the point that I couldn't even pay for her education. I asked her how she could expect me to be okay with my sister mocking me along with her daughter, who was born from an affair with my ex-boyfriend. After that, Olivia was quiet the rest of the afternoon and left early. So later, I received a call from Rachel yelling at me for ruining her family. Apparently, she and my brother-in-law didn't even bother to tell Olivia what they did to me, and now she knows and is so mad at them that she decided to go live with her best friend's family. That's right, she wants to leave them. I'm starting to feel guilty for having told her the truth, as it affected her more than I thought. But at the same time, she is old enough to know the truth, and I don't think I could have lied to her face, even if I had wanted to. Update 4. I decided to follow some of your advice and texted Olivia. I asked if she would like to meet and have a conversation about everything that happened because, as you said, she deserves some answers. So I met with her and told her about my relationship with her mom and went into details about the infidelity and her birth. I went over everything she asked. In turn, she told me everything her parents told her about me. Apparently, they told her that around the time she was born, I had a miracle baby named Olivia who died in the hospital, and because they share the same name, I held some resentment towards her while showing affection outwardly. I'm still processing what she told me, guys. Needless to say, there was a lot of crying involved and apologies from both sides. Olivia said she is better now that she knows the truth, and her best friend and her family have been an incredible support system in helping her get through this. I decided I would do my best to be more involved in her life. She agreed and said she also wanted to get to know me better. I told her she could reach out to me whenever she wanted, so she would have someone to talk to about how she was doing and someone to support her hobbies. I even told her my garage is open and explained how it worked. She loved it and said she wanted to work for me. So she announced at the family meeting that she had decided to take a job at my shop. Rachel was shocked and wasn't okay with what was said. Your aunt's job is to make a car look stupid and sound like a fart. Do you want that as your career, honey? Everyone laughed, but Olivia told them they were idiots. They don't understand that people have different tastes. Rachel went to the garage the next day, saw that she was learning things, and sometime later told her Honda hired brilliant engineers, paid them a lot of money to build the NSX to be as perfect as it is, and you, a lazy person, happily ruined it. Olivia responded, "What's the deal if they hired brilliant engineers? But they also hired a marketing team, and a bunch of people gave the engineers crazy requirements and said no to a lot of cool things." The situation worsened at home. Her parents and grandparents were trying to steer her towards a specific field, but she didn't want it. I know her, and she won't do well. They told her either do as she's told, or they would withdraw support, and she would effectively be homeless. My mom was a bad mother to me, and I recognize the same thing happening with Rachel and Olivia. Both my mom and Rachel are horrible with their accidental children. Olivia showed up at my house crying and asked if she could stay with me. She explained that she and her mom had a massive argument and she can't stand to be around her right now. I told her yes, of course, but that she would have to talk to her parents about it. So I contacted Rachel and we talked over the phone. I asked if it was okay for Olivia to stay with me. I let her know that I have no problem with it. She argued with me that everything was fine and she didn't need my help, so I said I didn't think things were fine considering how she was responding to the situation. She yelled at me to mind my own business. Olivia stayed with me last weekend and we had a lot of fun together. She told me she wanted to live with me permanently. I told her I would support her, that she should tell Rachel to go to hell, and that I would back her up. Her parents are obviously upset and Rachel is mad that I'm interfering in the family dynamic and said I'm just giving Olivia what she wants and setting her up for a future of failure. She said that separating a mother from her daughter is the worst thing I could do. They tried repeatedly to tell Olivia that her aunt is not a good person, but she told them to go to hell, so I told her she could stay with me as long as she wanted. Anyway, we've bought a new mattress, bedding, a rug, a desk, a chair, and some decorations for her new room to make the space more her own. My two closest friends, well, they're in the store and they arrived here an hour ago with lots and lots of bags of stuff. They're all in Olivia's room now, going through clothes, shoes, hair products, soap, lotions, potions, perfumes, whatever young women like. These two women are some of my closest friends for a reason. One is a stylist, and told Olivia that if she decides she wants a haircut or color, she just has to let her know. My younger cousin is also flying in and arriving on Thursday, and she'll be staying with us until the end of May. So, I'm sure having her here will be a great help as well. Overall, this incident opened a lot of old wounds, but I'm glad it happened. It needed to happen. Your opinions were really helpful to me in making this decision, and I appreciate it. So, thank you guys. All I can say is that I hope both Olivia and I will probably heal from this and move forward with our lives.